All right. Hi, everybody. This is officially the week 3 weekly sync, which is our 4th meeting for TCL-55. And how's everybody doing? Good.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. All right. Devin, were you going to do demos today?
Yep.
Cool.
All right. So we had two very interesting issues this week. Sorry, tissues this week. I think for issue 5, we had Jeremiah and Yao. Do you all want to take it away?
Okay. Let's see. I think it's this one. Yep. Okay. So this is can everyone see? And it's like readable. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we had tissue number 5. So this is our PR. And so it is right here. And I had it open because I knew I was going to be the one sharing. So so in here we added this form so that way you can join a list by typing in the whatever the token is that is saved in the database. So I'm going to start by showing one that's not in the database. So if we do that, then it lets you know that it's not found, try something else. And then if you do my test list, then it will take you to the shopping list. And then you can't navigate to home anymore. And then if you're on add token, or sorry, add item, then you can't go to home either. And then I should have shown this also. So if you're on the home, then you can't switch to either of the other views until you have a shopping list. And then inside the code, we changed the routing a little bit to get rid of the flicker. So Yao found this last week, and then I found they just have like this helper create routes from elements. So switching it from browser router to just router, or sorry, route, and then adding in create browser router, create routes from element and redirect. We have this browser router that we're now making. And then there are 2 different ways that you can do it. One is like an array with child objects that have these key values in it. This is more similar to what we had before, where it has the routes, and then we have these loaders that prevent you from or that like redirect you based on whether or not you have a list token. And then inside the home route, we added this bottom part. So if you want, you can join a list. And then we have the HTML4 and the ID matching. So I didn't show it, but if you click on the label, then it will take you to the input. And then because it's inside a form, you can submit with enter or with mouse click. Click the button, and then it will handle submit form. So handle form submit. So it checks to make sure that you type something in, and then you uses this function from our API, which had one of its returns is how long the like shopping list is for that key. If it's empty, then that means that there's no shopping list for it. Otherwise, it sets your local storage to the token, and then that automatically redirects you because you now have a token in your local storage. And then this is where it shows the message for any of those situations that are not it just working. And I think that should be it.
There was one thing I want to mention. So Catherine, you might be a little bit sad because when I was working with Jeremiah, he actually took out the use navigate or the navigate call when we called handle create list. And it's because if we go back to how React works, right, we're technically updating now the list token in the app component, which is the parent component. So because of that change in the parent component, it's going to cause a re-render of the child component. So it's actually causing the whole app routing to check whether we have a token now. So it's automatically going to redirect us to list. So we didn't need that anymore.
Yeah, I love the way that is. It's very cool.
Yeah, good find. Was there anything particularly challenging about this week's TC?
You can
Go
go
ahead.
ahead first.
Yeah, I think originally when I first started looking at this issue and how I wanted to approach it, I had to look at the API for Firebase, and the original, naive brute force way of me thinking about it is like, hey, can I check to see if I can get like a return of all the current lists or collections that are available on Firebase and kind of iterate and see, is this user entered token on there? But there was no such, no such call that would return an object like that. So, we took a look at the API calls that were already available to us, and we realized, oh yeah, we had to pass in the list ID somewhere, right? So if it returns empty or if it doesn't return anything, we can use that to make our logic work. And that's what we did in the end.
So if there was no list that matched the name that was submitted, there would be no error. It would just basically be a snapshot of a certain length that would be returned.
Yeah, correct. So even if like we entered a empty list, right, it would, sorry, a token that was not, in the back end, it would return an object that says, with the property empty is true. So that's how we know, because based on the description of the story, there should be no list that's available in the database that has no items in it.
Good.
So part of that decision-making process was like, we haven't had to code any of the backend things. And most of the time, or all of the time so far, however, whatever we need to do, there's like a tool provided for us from the backend, but the tissue didn't say like what specifically to use. So we like had to look at the API and kind of think about what these different functions do. And then we weren't sure if streamless items was even the one, but from trying it and then seeing what the return was, we saw that it had an empty like value. And so that's what we ended up using was like that value on the object that came back from the API.
Nice. Very nice job on this one. All right, and issue 6 was Tisha and Catherine. So whenever you're ready, take it away.
Tisha, do you want me to do the demo?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Yeah. Okay, so I'll start out with a demo. So our issue this week was to add a filtered a filter form essentially to try to take down the list. So I have it preloaded here to my test list just because it has the most on it. Some interesting items added to the list. But essentially what we needed to do was we'll start typing here. I'll show you. If I type in like 00, we needed to have every item that has an 00 in it come up. We set it to be, not case sensitive, so we can type anything in here that contains a T, J. Interesting. And so so thank you, Yao, for pointing this out because neither of us had read that piece of it or understood it like that. So now when you actually start typing, the clear filter will pop up. And you can tab to it or and you can hit spacebar enter to clear the filter and it'll bring you back to the list. So now we have that feature where it only pops up when you actually have text in the input field. And so going to the code. So essentially what we did was all in the list component. So we added a state here for filtered data. So instead of, I'll scroll down a little bit here, prior to this, this was just mapping the data that we were sending over from that get stream list down as a prop here to list. And so obviously, since we're manipulating that data, we created this filtered data. Once we're getting the data, we're setting it to this filter data. So initially coming in, it's just that the much larger data list until we actually start searching. So we have here a new form with this input here. So we're doing a controlled form. And then as we're searching, we have the filter happening. So there's no submit button. It's just searching as we continue to type. So we used a filter and obviously we're making everything case sensitive. In this case, just for the purposes of the search. We did also have the clear filter button. So as we're clearing it, we're removing the text. So we're obviously resetting the state back to the original data list, and then also clearing out the form as well. So then the clear filter button goes away again.
Nice job. Yeah, I appreciate state not being mutated. And I also do like that you all caught the so on the handle form submit, because you could still hit enter, and which would have triggered a page refresh. So it was good that you all picked up on that. Was there anything particularly challenging about this week?
I think doing so we actually hit a point where we were like, when we had our first session and we were like, oh, this is awesome. We were doing it really quickly. And then we kind of both forgot, because I initially had said, oh, let's set the state to data, like just do the initial state. But forgetting that there's always that, like, even though it's a very, very short time period, that the data actually, the initial array comes in empty. So we were trying to fix that. So we actually obviously can't do the initial state there. So that was one thing that kind of tripped us up in the beginning. And then obviously the handle submit form, because we didn't have a submit button and it was wrapped in the form that prevent default. Initially, we didn't realize that was happening until we started playing around with it. So that was a little bit challenging. And initially, just because in my head, I always, I guess, didn't realize that if you don't have a submit button, you still have the same functionality because it's wrapped in the form. So yeah, I don't know. Was there anything else? I think those were the two things that just held us up a little bit.
Yeah, it was just those two. And then like not a challenge really, but when we were looking into how to display the button, once there was something in the input, we talked about our options, whether using the hidden attribute or just using conditional rendering. And we landed on this first just because it seemed the most straightforward, and then also considered using conditional rendering so that in an event that we end up refactoring and encapsulating the button into its own component, then we won't have to pass search input as a prop. So it's just, I think, cleaner this way. So yeah, that's what we landed on.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, nice work. Good job, everyone.
Finding the unmute button. Okay, cool. Y'all are doing really, really awesome. Just want to say that again, because you're probably doing too awesome. Like, it'd be really nice to work through some more issues and struggles and stuff, but fine, keep doing a great job. That just makes life boring and fun. Okay. I'm going to now do the pair programming learning module for this week. So this will be an interesting one. Let me get my share screen going. Okay, and then I'm gonna click slideshow. Okay, everybody can see a big black pair programming screen, right? Great. So pair programming is this thing that you've been doing already since we started this program, and we'll continue to do more of it as we go. And hopefully we'll be doing a lot of it in your future career. with any of the dev work that you're doing and the people that you're working with. I will sort of admit that this activity took me a while to fully sort of get and appreciate all of the benefits of doing pair programming this way. And, it's kind of a thing that for a while I tried to shy from. I wasn't always comfortable with people staring over my shoulder, watching me code, thought people might be judging me, or, and that kind of thing. And also like, that I wasn't, being smart enough or something on the keyboard. And it took me a little bit to realize that, this is not really what's going on here. This is actually a practice that we do on purpose because it helps you build code more efficiently and with higher quality if you're doing this correctly. So that's why we're preaching it here, but also why it's just a good practice to get into kind of wherever you are and doing what you're doing. So first thing we should talk about, is kind of the thing I touched on a second ago, is that, your mindset and attitude here. So pairing is an exercise in sharing your Lego. This is my toys, your toy. Nope, we're gonna share and work together. It can be more efficient to go with your pairing partner's idea than to argue on approach. So, right, like you don't need to win. You don't need to be right here. It's a joint exploration of the code. And it's two brains plugged in working on a problem together. You really want to strive to have the beginner's mind as you're going through this exercise. So embrace doubt and possibility, and really try and be as naive as you can be in sort of approaching the problem, and help you kind of think things out. It's not about teaching nor mentorship. So again, it kind of goes back to, what is this really for, and about being on a level playing field with the person that you're with, at least sort of in the way you're setting up this exercise. Just not to say that teaching or mentorship is not possible or excellent when you're doing kind of a pairing type of activity, but that is explicitly not what pair programming is for. And having the mind set is very important to set when you go into this activity, so that you are deliberate in saying like, nope, we are working through this problem together as a pair. And it's not about sort of a dichotomy of me teaching you and this flow of information. It is an opportunity to learn. We're exploring the code together and we're finding the solution as a pair. And we can see the other person thinking, we can work through these things, and you should pick up a lot during this activity. Drivers will seek agreement before proceeding, and navigators ask, don't tell. So we'll get more into the driving metaphor here in a second. But if you've ever been in a car with anybody, you don't want to be the backseat navigator of like, no, turn here, oh, stop, and and when you're driving, also, you don't want to take people that they're not ready or, willing to go to. So you always want to say, hey, let's go here. Great, and get buy-in before you proceed. So what are we actually talking about in depth? Pair programming to developers. This is sort of a description of a typical setup. There's a bunch of different ways to do this now. And techniques and the specific implementation of your pair programming is not, I think, as important as getting the activity down together. But this is a good paradigm and a very common one that you'll see in the industry. It's two developers sitting down on a keyboard with one computer, one monitor, look ready to go. Driver is typically the person who has the keyboard in hand. They are responsible for writing the code. They are going to be navigating around the window. And they should be not doing this silently, trying to talk out loud as they're doing that as much as humanly possible, so that the person sitting with them can help plug into their thought process. And since they are doing the typing and thinking, like, they are looking at where they're going, and they're not necessarily thinking full global about everything else going on in the code while they're executing that. The navigator is the other person, doesn't have a keyboard, sitting there kind of watching, paying attention to what the driver's doing, obviously, offering guidance, suggesting alternatives, finding answers to upcoming questions and challenges, and acting as a sounding board for the ideas that the driver is coming up with. If you've heard the phrase kind of rubber ducking before, that's sort of the notion of, even if you just have a toy rubber duck sitting on your desk and talking out at the rubber duck can help you think through certain thought processes. and kind of come to the conclusions on your own, even though that rubber duck is not going to respond to you. It's just going to sit there being a rubber duck. By the way, I have a velociraptor on my desk instead of a rubber duck. I like to think about all the ways that things can jump out at you and attack you. But it's a little thing. Instead of a toy, however, a human being can actually talk back, can point out things in the code, can provide feedback and see things that you're doing and provide insight. And they're really useful to have. And this is also part of why this can be more efficient. Two brains plugged into the problem can sort of think globally, can think line by line while they're executing this. I can't tell you the number of times that I've been typing and someone you hit a little speed bump while you're working through and like, oh, why is that not working? And having the person sit next to you go like, oh, that's why. Or like, oh, did we try this? And that kind of stuff. And you can just go a lot faster when working through problems. All right, so typical flow for this activity to happen is say, hey, you want to pair? Let's pair. And then two devs will hop on a video screen or share a call, or if you have the luxury of doing so, being in person and actually sitting down at a keyboard with a monitor in front of you. Driver can share the screen and codes while the navigator provides feedback and asks questions. So grab the keyboard and say like, yep, all right, I'm going to start going, and turn the keys on, engine on, and off we go. Get to a point of stopping, driver will push code to the remote repository, and then the navigator will pull down that code locally. So Git type fashion, you'll be working off of a branch. I'm going to push my code up, you're going to pull it down. And then we might switch. So if I was the one driving the keyboard, maybe you'll pull down the code, maybe we'll have you share instead of me share, and then we'll start the activity going the other way. And I'd say this is pretty important to encourage. If you find yourself always being the person watching, or you find yourself always being the person driving, do make an effort to suggest switching it up. Your brain will switch into a different mode. You'll see things differently. You'll provide different insight, and the back and forth can be really, really good just for getting through the code yourself, but also in getting your brain to think about the problem as a whole. And then, repeat the cycle as many times as you need. So, not a long module. So I'm trying to think if I have any additional things to say before we dive into questions. Probably not. Just again, remember that it's not an exercise of, hey, let me demonstrate how smart I am, or how clever we are, or let me try and prove something to the person sitting next to you. It really, really is about trying to be more efficient, trying to have higher quality, and to try and move through the code with some purpose. And having two brains on there together can really facilitate doing a better job of that. So how does that, what I've just described, measure up with your experience so far, both here and outside in the real world that's not TCL? This is an open question, by the way.
I mean, I think it's aligned pretty well inadvertently. I know we haven't stopped during, if we're doing an hour session to switch, but I know Tisha and I just inadvertently switched off. We did some coding, she did some, I did the first day, and then the next day she took over, and we swapped roles. So I think so far, and everyone's been super respectful too. So that's been great.
Anyone else have a bad pairing experience so far? Awkward if it's with the person you were just pairing with last week in TCL, but it could have been from anywhere else too. I'll say it's happened. There are definitely times where you feel awkward, and I make so many more mistakes when someone is watching me type. But or sometimes people get frustrated with you because they don't see things, or you're not seeing what they're seeing, and they want you to, and it can lead to, you know, a less than ideal experience if people are not really trying to encourage, you know, being open and being collaborative and being, you know, working as a team here. And it happens. People are human beings. They're not perfect all the time. But generally, I think the more experienced people understand the value of doing this kind of right and reducing your ego and sharing that experience and won't tend to allow that type of thing to happen. Any other additional thoughts on it? I mean, do you like doing pair programming? Do you hate doing pair programming? Do you think all this is, you know, silly and you'd rather just sit in the corner and do it all yourself as quickly as you can?
No, I definitely think that there is value here because I feel like everybody comes in with a different skill set and different experiences, right? So like sometimes like when I'm unsure of something and I talk it out loud, we're like, oh yeah, why is this not working? And then we go back and we look, or somebody's like, oh yeah, this is not working because of this, right? And it might be something that I wasn't thinking about when I was driving. And even when I'm like, you know, being the navigator, like something that I don't understand and the person who's driving can explain it. So I think there's definitely a lot of information sharing when it comes to pair programming.
Yep, I think it's been a good experience so far. My only real experience with it isn't, I don't even know if you'd call either of the examples that I could think of pair programming. One of them is definitely like a mentor-mentee kind of thing with either like children or one of my coworkers wants to learn how to code. So like the experience isn't the same, or like whenever you have to code in an interview, I definitely feel my brain like shutting down. Like it doesn't have all of the same knowledge that it did before the interview started. So that kind of thing. But yeah, here it's nice to have, yeah, people who are like, yeah, bouncing ideas off of people, or you can like see when someone gets stuck and then offer suggestions, or like the opposite will happen, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've done my fair share of choking hard in interviews. It definitely happens. We do have Career Lab, by the way, that can help that type of thing. So if you're interested in getting better at some of those things, you know, keep in mind when we announce the next round of that coming up. All right. So I'll share the link to these slides after we're done here. And there's just links to more stuff. So a couple of these are kind of informative. This one's sort of a general overview of pair programming. 10 collaborative coding tools for remote pair programming. I didn't realize that VS Code Live Share came out in 2017. So it was, you know, a good 6 years ago. And since then, that was kind of the first like built-in IDE level one that kind of came around, as people were obviously screen sharing before that for a long time. But now the tools have proliferated. Like every editor now has this thing, in addition to there's web-based ones and there's all kinds of other junk. So there's tons of different ways to achieve this, or just, you know, good old screen share. Promiscuous pairing in the beginner's mind is an interesting kind of academic little article. It does kind of follow where you'd expect using the word promiscuous about like the benefits of swapping partners and seeing all this, you know, it's kind of an interesting read, but you know, kind of the gist is of the whole team that you're working with, of everybody, swapping is actually a really good thing. It allows kind of this knowledge transfer to kind of happen, you know, bouncing between people, and you get the experience of, you know, kind of experiencing everybody else's brain, and it can just foster just better collaboration and working with the whole group as a whole. So it's an interesting read, a little more academic looking than some of these other ones. How to do pair programming the wrong way is an interesting Hacker Noon article, like provides all of the bad examples of like pair programming and how you go and do it. You know, and then just a couple of these other expounding on the benefits of doing it. So if you're interested in learning more about this topic, there are bazillions of words out on the internet. These are just a few of them to go and see. So I stop sharing there. Cool. All right. So I think that will wrap up our pair programming. Any other additional thoughts on that topic before we move on? Cool. Rada, do you want to do the issues for the week?
Yep, I'll start sharing screen. I'm sorry. Yes, so we'll cover the issue number 7 and 8 this week. And the issue number 7 says, like, as a user, I want to see a welcoming prompt to add my first item if my list is empty. It kind of gives user nice user experience, like when user is coming to the app and the list is empty. So they have given a wireframe, like when you are going to the list and the list is empty. Right now, I'll show what's happening. So you are basically supposed to give some nice message. I mean, the message they have left on you almost. The list view where there are no items should show a prompt. For example, a button for the user to add their first item. The wireframe is a little short on welcoming part of the story, but otherwise is functionally complete. So you could say the message, like you could keep the message as you think is great. This is the wireframe. Right now, what's happening if we go to the list, this is what we get. So if I'm not having any list, I'm still showing the filter items. And basically it doesn't make sense, right? So instead of this, what we should be having is this UI. You can think about what to put in here. So that is issue number 7. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, so 2 questions. I think the first one you kind of implied is that when the list has no items, you should be hiding that whole filter search bar button, right? And the second thing, I feel like maybe it's just a little bit more simple than I thought, but this is my thought process. Hey, we can show a button, the user can click on it, and then it can just navigate them to the add item, because I feel like that would accomplish, but I'm not sure because that sounds a little bit too simple.
Yeah, I agree. I was like, maybe if I'm not wrong, if I just click the add item, it should actually take you to the add item page. I think that's what the intent is. Am I correct, Lyle?
It says, I have a question about it that's related. It says, like for an example, a button. So like if you wanted to do something different, like show the,
This one?
yeah, like if you wanted to show like the portion of the add item page to add your first item, and then after there's an item on the page, not have that anymore on this page and replace it with the list, like, would that be, I don't know, I'm just thinking, since it's not like explicit about the thing to do, it just gives an example of having a button, and that would also make sense to me. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking about it. Devin and Lyle, do you have any ideas about it?
Not ones that I feel strongly about. Let's put it that way. I think that this is probably one of the ones where we want to agree on the approach as a team and then go and execute on it. So it is open-ended and vague on purpose. I think, but that gives us the freedom to determine the best path ourselves and then go and decide. So I'll leave that up to y'all if it sounds
Maybe we
good.
could come up with an idea and then discuss in the Slack, like what do you want to go ahead with, like whosoever is assigned the issue. I mean, you can brainstorm tonight and come tomorrow. Slack. That will give us like at least the points, like different ways we could achieve this. So that's issue number 7. For the issue number 8, as a user, I want to mark an item on my shopping list as purchased, so the app can learn how often I buy different items. But this issue is little like detailed and more work needed, so we have to be cautious while going over it. Be very careful. So users need a UI that allows them to mark their items as purchased. Right now, what we are seeing is when the items are displayed on the list is just the name, but now they are asking you to add the name in a label and a checkbox. So the list item component right now just have an li, but what they need you is the list item components renders a checkbox with a semantic label. Checking of the item in the UI also updates the date last purchased and total purchases properties of the corresponding Firestore document. So here there are two things to see. If you see the Firestore, every document that we like, basically every item that we add, it is having date last purchased and total purchases properties. They have these two fields. As part of this issue, we are not considering date next purchased, but these two items, when a user is checking off that I have purchased an item, you should basically update the date last purchase with the date, and total items purchased, you should increment it. Yeah, the next thing is the item is shown as checked for 24 hours after the purchase is made. So you are basically recording the date, the timestamp here, date last purchased. So it is kept, the item is kept in purchase state for 24 hours. And then after 24 hours, the item unchecks itself so the user can buy it again. The update function in the Firebase.js has been filled out. So this, what we are doing basically here, we are updating the document in the Firestore database. So they have already given under API Firebase.js, you have the update item function here. And this time they haven't written the code. So it's the description is filled and you have to basically figure out how to update an existing item in the Firestore. So these are the two things you are supposed to do as part of this issue. And they have explicitly mentioned that for the date next purchased, we are not supposed to like worry about it. This will be addressed in the future issue. And yeah, in order to check whether the update is working properly or not, you can use Firebase console. So any questions on this? I think there would be many.
Yeah, so first question is, I think more on like the UI aspect, right? Are we expecting like a bulk update, or should the user be able to update the specific item on clicking on just one? You know,
What I know of is like once the items are I'm shown right now, the items are just shown. Okay, let me just join a list. My test list, right? I think I am not running the data thing. Anyways, so what's right now is happening is when I'm joining a list, the name of the items are just mentioned as text, right? So what they are asking when we will add a label and a checkbox, so individually is what they are getting tick off, like they have been purchased. It's not a bulk update.
okay,
I mean,
okay.
other mentors could correct me if I'm assuming it wrong.
I think you're right.
Okay.
Not 100% sure, but like,
I was just thinking like from the reverse aspect of it, like, you know, what if it's like if actually like a small device and you click on an item by accident, you kind of want to uncheck it. Like you really can't do that if you're just going to click and submit the call, the update call right away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not really giving the user the option to uncheck if they made a mistake at this point in time, but if that's how we want to go with it, that's fine.
Yeah, well, that could also be considered, but I think, yeah, they are not like explicitly asking that in the acceptance criteria. Maybe we'll keep it as in like if you are able to complete the acceptance criteria within the 5 hours limit, we could think over it, like what to do with it.
Yeah, because it doesn't say they submit anywhere. It just says checking it does this stuff.
Yeah, we are not submitting anyway. So basically, if you are unchecking it, I mean, if you are going to implement it, it would be another update API, like another update to the thing. So that is not explicitly mentioned in the acceptance criteria. So I think as of now, we'll keep that aside. But once we complete it, we could, if we have time, we could maybe discuss about it. But yeah, as of now, that's not part of acceptance criteria yet.
I was gonna say, because the way I'm reading it, the item is shown as checked for 24 hours. It doesn't necessarily say that you can't, as a user, uncheck it. It just says that it unchecks itself after.
Yep. it unchecks
Okay.
itself after 24 hours.
You could potentially, as a user, uncheck it. It's not like we're like graying it out or anything, right?
No,
Preventing
it's
the
not
effect.
like that. But like as part of UI, like how will you convey? You will either have the checkbox checked or you will have it like marked as cut off. I'm not getting the word right now.
Yeah.
So strike it off, basically, like howsoever you want to convey it right now, because we are not going too much on styling. So anything that simply conveys it is checked.
And I think the way that I would write this is, so every item will have a date last purchase attribute on
Mhm.
it. And I would, in the UI, check to see if the date on that item is within the last 24 hours,
Mhm.
check the box or show it as checked.
Mhm.
And then if you actually click that, then it will update that timestamp to now. And then like, so that would be, you know, kind of how the logic would operate in my mind. So what you would have to do to uncheck, if that's really what you were trying to do, is you'd have to figure out how to roll it back to the last date that it was before the whole thing. And it's probably complicated logic that gets us kind of in the weeds pretty fast. So I'd say like, yeah, it's a doable thing, but it gets hairier when you try and think through the implementation than you might want it to be.
So I do want to confirm something, because I feel like what you just said, Lyle, kind of threw me off a bit. So if the user has checked the item, right, and they're back to the page, right, and it's still within 24 hours time frame, they should not have the ability to basically edit that item anymore, check or uncheck it, right? Is that right or no?
Yes, I think so, based
Okay.
on updating this. Now, as I say that out loud, do not worry about needing to update multiple parts. Do not worry about date next purchase yet. So I'm just reading out loud the little note in there to make sure I'm not tripping over something. So we're not talking about the other date, but this date, yeah. So yeah, I don't think I would. Let's put it this way. If you check the box or whatever, like you're just going to create a positive update on the timestamp to now, which is the moment that you clicked it. I guess depending on how you implement that, you could allow the user to click that again, or not, you know, kind of depending on what the situation would be. And I would update the timestamp again to now-ish, right?
Well, it does say we assume the user does not need to buy the item again for at least 1 day.
Yeah.
So they can't really check it again if it's within the same day. Right, so they can't basically make 2 updates within 24 hours. They have to wait 24 hours before they can check and say, you know, I need to buy it again, or I bought it
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I think that would be a good statement to say, no, they can't check it twice. So they would just have to wait until the locked disabled until it's been 24 hours since they clicked the button. But yeah, it's a good thinking that through.
Any more questions? Okay.
Right now, comments.
So this week, I think the pairing is Yao and Tasha, Jeremiah and Catherine. So any preferences you guys have on issues to work on?
I'd like to ask for issue 8.
Yeah, I would say the same.
I think everyone's gonna say that.
I feel like issue 7 is a little bit too creative for me.
Yeah, the first issue, when I was going through, I was like, oh, the first issue is relatively less like things to think about. So what should I do?
Should we play rock, paper, scissors or play guess the numbers? Unless I don't know if Jeremiah or Tisha have a specific preference.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Okay. So Yao and Tisha, do you wanna go with issue number 7?
Sorry, I've lost track of which issue is which. Is 7 the one with having an
The
ambiguous-
UI, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
and then
like the-
8.
Okay, I
It
mean,
is
I
the-
appreciate the ambiguity here for
Mhm.
trying a couple of things out. I wouldn't mind doing that.
Okay. So Tisha doesn't mind, we can take 7.
Okay.
Potential for that one to be a lot of fun. So,
Let me just assign it. Yo. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. So the 8th issue comes to Catherine and Jeremiah. Are you guys excited about it?
Yeah. I want to, because I'm excited about what you guys did last week with Firebase, so I'm ready to go like back in there and play around with it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good learning thing anyways. And we are here to help you guys.
Although I will
So
say last week the issue seemed simple, and then there were little pieces that we were like, it's a little bit more complicated than we thought.
yeah, but that's fine. I mean, some challenges and think over. Yep. So I think we are done. I'll stop sharing my screen. If you guys have any questions, think over tonight, tomorrow, and just like can discuss in the Slack. We can have more insight over what we have to do. I think that's done from my side. You can take.
cool. I was just gonna say that I will probably bounce right after I click the end button. So the normal updatey things might be delayed. Actually, I'm gonna need to post last week's video too. Oops. So, but I have a thing I'm gonna try and get to, so it might be a little bit later this evening on that stuff. Otherwise, do we have any other additional questions, thoughts, concerns?
I think there was one item that me and Jeremiah sort of like kind of want an answer to, just because like sometimes you know, like some things are not explicitly written in the tissue, but we feel like it makes sense to add, right? I think this week for our tissue, I don't remember exactly what it is, but it was like with the case sensitivity, right? It wasn't mentioned. So something like that, like should we just go ahead and implement what we think makes sense, or is it like always best to check with you guys first?
I would caution you against making changes as you go without them being properly updated. So like and captured in the thing and you know, in the issue. It's just a good practice to get into when you know you're working in the real world. Not to say that we don't want to do those things. This is like why I'm trying to be careful with how I'm phrasing that here, because absolutely stuff we want to capture as we go and make sure that we get them taken care of. And the thing about the TCL, you know, kind of the list of issues and stuff that we have is that they are kind of a little bit on rails. And so there's maybe a little bit less of an opportunity to add in new cards as we go. But it would be pretty typical in, you know, a real dev world project to be constantly adding either new bugs, update existing upcoming features, or adding new ones for tasks that need doing as you go. And so like you sort of start out with your skeleton of your project plan and you kind of fill it in over time. You know, and so like while you want to kind of be predictable and precise with the thing that you are going to deliver for that week or that sprint as you do it. So you want to be able, if you got product managers on your back, like you want to be able to say to them, yes, we are going to deliver this exactly as we said we are going to tomorrow. And then any additional updates and stuff that we want to like make happen next, we will get on the next round or work it into the schedule and the plan and do that kind of thing. So it's just, you know, why I'm saying like, I absolutely don't want to discourage like doing that type of stuff, but we just want to make sure that we're doing it deliberately in the way that will be predictable and achieve those types of results. Does that make sense? No. Okay. And if anyone mentors or otherwise like has additional thoughts on that, by all means chip in too. Cool. Any other questions, thoughts? As I said earlier, y'all are doing a particularly excellent job working through this project. You are, again, working extremely well with each other, and you're doing a bang up job of getting these issues in and delivered and getting them in. So, and keep up doing that. I'm genuinely impressed with how things are going so far. Y'all are doing pretty great. Right. And with that, I'm going to hit the end button. So off to the races, everybody. Have a good one.
Have a good night,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.